I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. I'm Mary Helen Cole.
How you doing there, Miss Cole?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
We want to go back into the history of Lewis Chapel. So we invited you here to answer a couple of questions. And I'm going to start the questioning off with, how was Lewis Chapel growing up? How'd you get there?
Well, we walked to church, really. Weather was permitted for us to walk there. But we wouldn't walk when it was real cold.
What type of building did you have at the time?
There was a little white church there outside Rayford Road.
How did you keep it warm in the winter?
Well, they had a little heater. They had a heater in there, and they had those benches, kind of like slack benches in there, pews rather, and that's what we had at that particular time.
And how often did you do church?
Well, we had church every Sunday, but on first Sunday we just had preaching on first Sundays.
Okay, and did you have a choir at that time?
Yes, senior choir.
They were the senior choir.
Yes.
And then later on, as you got a little older, did you develop any more choirs at that time?
Yes, the junior choir. I was 15 years old. It was Sister McLeod. She was had formed that choir.
She formed the choir.
Yes.
Okay, and that's Dr. Lorraine C. McLeod.
Yes.
And at that time, were there any boards or anything y'all had?
In the boards.
Any boards like?
Oh yeah.
Senior board?
Yeah. Yes, we had the usher board. We had the senior usher board. That's the only one we had at that particular time. And it's three of them are still alive today. One of them the names is Mamie Williams, Sister Katie Bell, and Annie Murphy.
Wow.
And they're still here.
How did y'all do offerings at that time?
Well, we took them up in little, I say like little plates in a way, that's how it was made back then, and just passed it down. They didn't march around and give off, just pass the tray around.
And you're continually growing up in the church. Now you're a young adult.
Yeah.
What was church like in Lewis Chapel as a young adult?
Well, things have got better
How often did you do church at that time?
Oh, we did. We were doing church up every Sunday, except on the fourth Sunday.
Okay. And then your reverends at that time, did you have one or were there several?
Yeah, it was two. Two more besides Reverend Carl. Reverend Ford and then Reverend Jackson.
And Reverend Jackson, what was the big thing you remember about him?
Well, he always wanted us to try to stop being tithe. But longer then, really, people didn't have good jobs like they do now. And children wasn't going to school, wasn't like now children go to school, go to college. And for instance, my mom didn't have the money to even send me to go to college like people do now. If I want to go.
Right. And Sunday school classes, were they added to the building at that time? Did y'all get bigger classes?
Yes, they're about the same. They're about the same name because that other part already had been built on the front.
Okay, it had been built onto the front.
Yes.
Now let's talk about the building because it was a small building. Then you started growing.
Yes.
So what was the building like? Where was your bathrooms at?
Well, we had
outhouses
outside. But we never did use that hardly anyway. But later years they built went on to the side of the church.
Okay. And your water? How'd y'all get water?
Well, really, we didn't ever use the water because we had a pump out there, but you never could get real good water because it always come out like wasn't good to drink.
Okay. And what about the ornaments that line the front of the church? Did y'all have any special ornaments out there?
Oh yes, we had a big bell there. It would ring it whenever we had a funeral at the church. It would ring that bell.
And I remember growing up in the church I grew up in, we had when you walked in the sanctuary, we had like a banner that told you different. Y'all had something like that?
Yes, we had that banner. They used that mostly in Sunday school when we had to go to Sunday school, and one had raised the most money or had the most ones in the class at that particular time. They would have to get the banner that Sunday. They would put that in, put it in the sanctuary.
And as you left from that small building to the vast church that you had today, how did y'all go about making that happen?
Well, the church had grown, so it was getting larger, and Reverend Carr wanted to give it up because he was getting older. Mm-hmm. And so Reverend Fuller came in later, and he really wanted to make the church grow, and he started teaching more about tithing, and the church started really growing from there at that particular time.
Okay, and we're gonna come back to Reverend Fuller,
yes.
But what I want to touch on at this point was tell us about baptism at that time.
Oh yes, baptism, but they had to go down to the creek, and where it was located is where they have a storage down there now in that same area. But I think they rerouted the creek to made it go farther over. But that's where we got baptized in. And one of my sons got baptized over there.
Wow. And that
Keith.
and about that same time, y'all went on and you started more choirs. You got the junior choir.
And they had the junior choir, but we changed to a gospel choir.
Okay, so that's how your gospel choir came to be.
Yeah, because older people wanted to start coming into the choir.
Okay, so as the church continued to grow, now we come back to the part where the man I remember the most, and that's Reverend Fuller. Yeah. When did you receive Reverend Fuller?
Well, he came in 1973, and I remember the Sunday that we sung at that time. I want to say something else too. I remember when he first came there, my mama and some more ushers, they passed away now, and they ushered him into the little pastor's study, into the little white church.
That is interesting. And then y'all started changing and reformatting the church, and your second Sunday started to change, and they became what? They like the young adults. Okay. Okay, and they had the help of
the sister Maddie Poole and Miss Jackson.
Okay.
They started those choirs.
And then we're starting to catch up today, and you built another apparently usher board. And who were those?
Yeah, well, we had the junior usher board. We had the junior usher board, and then the junior usher board. Then a lot more ushers came along later years, because they had coming into the new part of the church. They had the male usher board.
Okay.
And, like that, and even the youth had a little usher board. Had a little usher rather.
So in such a short period of time that we were talking, we covered a lot of years.
Yeah.
Because you started going to church back in 19 and...
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And we're ending...
I was a child.
Right, and we're ending here in 2020 now. So I'm glad you came today. I'm glad we had the time and the opportunity to ask you a couple of questions about the history of Lewis Chapel. And I hope we can do it again later on.
Thank you, and thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate it very much.
No problem. Have a great day.
Well, thank you too.